He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
Welcome back to another episode of the Ministry of Truth. I've got another one. It's not really another one. I'm actually on the wrong screen. We're going to do a little flashback to 2020. Excuse me. Sorry. First presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Why? Because I want to see if anything's changed in 3 years. One. And two, because we're going to fucking see it again. So you might as well get some Cliff Notes versions because there's going to be no spoilers except for maybe, well, nothing's going to be a spoiler. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and children of all ages, since this is a presidential debate, kids can watch it. However, my commentary, I can't promise that. So without further ado, that's definitely not how I wanted it set up. Let's get into it. Like that one dude says. Say something, douchebag. Come on. Hello, and welcome to...
Good evening from the Health Education Campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates.
This will be the presidential
Commission
debate
has designed the
between President
format,
Trump
6 roughly
and President
15-minute
Biden.
segments with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both
I think this was the
campaigns have
shit show
agreed to
one.
these rules. For the record, I decided the topics
But they were
and
both
the
shit shows.
questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the commission or the two candidates. This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates. As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate.
Cowards.
The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say. No noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
What am I, top liver? Come on. Presidential nominee, Javi, motherfucker. Since y'all wouldn't let me in this motherfucking debate, I got this. Hello.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call and abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight: why are you right in the argument you make, and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go.
Well, first of all, I don't even know who I'm nominated for the Supreme Court, but Supreme Court as it is perfect. Okay, there needs to be no changes. It's perfect. 9 justices, 9 votes. There won't be a deadlock. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Was President Trump first?
Go first. 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time, even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And
right, that was 3 years ago.
Knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland.
That's not the same Joe Biden.
They didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely.
That is not the same fucker we got right now.
Election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this. And
oh, I forgot to thank you guys.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that. He ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I have nothing, I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing is on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens?
But I think
rights.
Amy Comer Barrett, whatever her name is, I'm willing to bet she can define what a woman is, unlike some other nominees that got appointed.
Are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And
wait,
that
pregnancy?
When we in fact passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait.
Let's see if they push any more judges.
100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
during
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years.
The
and the
election's
100
already
million
started.
people, Joe, The 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you
I'm
got that
confused.
number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly
knows
going
that.
to
Let-
socialist.
Go
You're
ahead.
going to socialist medicine.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into
Relax.
open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number
Biden.
one, he knows that what I proposed. What I
Is?
proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any and one of the
Right.
big debates we had with
How are we going to
23
pay for,
of
you
my
know,
colleagues trying to
transgender
win the
bottom
nomination
surgery?
that I won. We're saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your
is-
party has said.
That is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't
I
say.
mean, I
Your
still have
party wants
private
to go
insurance,
socialist
kind of.
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party.
Whoa, nobody else. Just want everyone else to know. You, and you, Joe Biden, is the Democratic Party. There is no one else. He is the Democratic Party puppet.
Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What
Wait,
does it mean for
did he
them
say?
going forward? If people that have died on his watch, the deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that.
Well, out of 200,000 people that died under his watch, I'm going to assume none of them survived because they're dead. I mean, I could be wrong.
contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down?
Actually, you had
the
more
Affordable
people
Care
die
Act?
under
Joe,
COVID
you've
than
had
he did.
308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And if
this.
you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200. It would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw.
Only one
You
of them
didn't want
looked
me
at
to
the
ban
COVID.
China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which
no,
was heavily
Mr.
infected.
President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr.
Much
President,
later.
Mr.
You're
President,
talking about 2 million people.
You're not gonna be able to
President, as
shut
a
him up.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me
Oh,
finish.
shit.
The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's
Uh-oh.
also at stake right now. And so the election is all.
You don't-
It's on ballot in the court. In the court. Well, we saw what the court says.
You know it's on the
begun.
ballot.
I-
Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is
you
it on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I don't
court.
think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And you
just be
don't
quiet
know
for a minute?
her view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't
don't
know her
know.
view.
Well, all right, let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last
Because they
If
want to
I-
give
if I-
good
if I-
health care.
If I may ask,
Go ahead.
my
Did he say
questions.
gooder health care?
Over
He
the
said
last
gooder,
4 years,
didn't he?
you have promised. Ask
Go
my
ahead.
question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well,
I
I'll give
got
you
rid
an
of
opp-
the
I'm gonna-
individual
when I finish,
mandate.
I'm going to give you an
Excuse me.
opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of Obamacare.
comprehensive plan.
That is absolutely a big thing. That was the
I-
worst
I
part
didn't
of
ask you,
Obamacare.
Sir,
Chris,
you're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part of
me.
Obamacare.
Let me ask my
Well,
question.
I'll
You're a
ask
moderator,
Joe.
not a
I-
debater,
I-
Chris.
The
No,
individual
I-
mandate was the most unpopular
Vice Pre-
aspect of
Mr.
Obamacare. I
President,
got rid of it.
I'd like you
And
to,
we will
Mr.
protect people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer.
Go
your
ahead.
question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare. And just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump healthcare plan?
Fine. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something that there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against big pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
What about
All of the
pre-existing
things that
conditions?
we've done,
He has not cut
insulin. I
healthcare.
give you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people. The cost. I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water. You want to know the truth? So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because
When in
they
fact-
pay just a tiny
As
fraction.
I say,
of
this
what
is
we do.
open discussion.
No,
Let me
but
ask
this
you
is
about,
big.
let me,
This
you'll
I
is
be
did
big
happy.
not
stuff.
realize he had said that in your original debate. We can go to other countries. I get it. But what about being 100% American made? I mean, I thought that's what he was all about. Make America great again. We're taking drugs from other countries. Well, maybe he was getting kickbacks.
Sir, you'll be happy. I'm about
Interesting
to
hearing
on
this
one of
over
your
again.
points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare. And
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
well, if I
I'm
can
sorry.
ask you the question, it will
Not what your
end.
party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option. Number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie
Number-
Sanders, who's
I
far
did-
left, on the manifesto,
Will
we
you-
call it.
well,
And that gives
manifest-
you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you
I'm
saying
not
you
going to
didn't
listen
agree?
to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie
You
Sanders.
kind of have to listen
Not
to
by
him.
much.
Hey,
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm
Not by
here
much.
standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left
Well,
2
I
days
tell
early.
you,
You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do is
Super
hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well.
whoa.
And tonight I'm going to
With
make
what?
sure because
With what?
here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agreed.
want to
Hey,
make
Joe,
sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make
You
sure.
graduated last in your class, not first in your
I-
class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
He doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be
you know,
surprised.
you pick
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy,
Go,
the
go,
wrong
Joe,
night at
go.
the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea-
Let
Now you're
him,
disavowing it.
There
Go ahead.
is no manifesto. Number
please let
one.
him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan
Folks,
that's absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you
to,
have
and
any
under
idea?
that
Yo,
government
it's a
is
real life
Mr.
drama
Mr.
panel.
do you
Mr.
have any
President,
do?
socialized
world
medicine.
paid
Mr.
attention.
President.
I'll tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care
Who is
because
Bernie?
because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two,
yeah.
there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever
Expand
look
that
you in the eye and
healthcare.
say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give
Number
them better
three.
health care at a
But-
much lower price
But,
because
and by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Gentlemen, you
Obamacare
realize
is no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better. And I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the
Not
individual
true.
mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed that. They shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people. Okay. I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
And I
known for.
just had a meeting with them. They said the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, It's a
Or fucking
disaster.
teleprompter
It's
down
too
there?
expensive.
I got you.
Premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
peop- that's what his
So
people
we
said.
we do want to get rid of it.
It's
Chris,
an
we
open
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir, but
something
I have
that's
to
cheaper
give
and
you
better.
roughly equal time.
Good.
Please
Roughly.
let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care.
Of course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right.
He's
I
against-
have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take in that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote
Yeah, but
and
we
let
don't
your
vote for the
senators
Supreme
know
Court,
how
Justice.
strongly you feel.
Court?
Vote
Are you
now.
going to pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why would
because
you answer that
because
question?
the question
the
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question-
left.
will you
Who is
shut
your
up, man?
listen? Who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so,
list?
All right, gentlemen,
This is,
I think
this
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the
unprecedented.
court.
That
We
is
have
so-
We're not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
Dude, I think they should have just
47
fucking
years,
fought.
you've done nothing. They understand.
Oh,
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject. So let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal.
Pretty normal
My
now.
question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is
I mean, the
what it is
vaccine made
because
it
you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew.
Actually, he
said
took
he
the
didn't
advice
tell
from
us or
Dr.
give people a
Fauci, who
warning.
said, "Oh, it's not that serious." Good job, Dr. Fauci, Lord and Savior.
Of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan.
Wrong.
I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
his 2 minutes.
March exactly
it's so
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the
Come back to
protective
think of
gear
it.
possible. We should be
If
providing
he had
the
been in
money.
charge, I wonder how it would have been. Would have we had been a complete police state? Not really police state, but no rights, no freedoms. Basically, New Zealand, Israel, we would all have 37 vaccines. Well, I have more than that, but not of COVID. Not of COVID. Because COVID was a very dangerous disease that should not have been because Donald Trump was the president. Yes. Sorry, YouTube. I meant to say that was a bad thing.
House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So,
I mean, granted, Joe Biden has not gone to the golf course or wherever the fucking place he says. However, he's been to Delaware quite often. Believe more times than Trump went to a golf course or a bunker. Or I think I'm going to smoke some more weed because
if we would have listened to you.
You have 2 minutes, sir.
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000. And one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country.
No,
Wait a minute.
It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governors. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care.
Wait, that's never changed. That hasn't changed.
I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was no economic recession.
Sir, you made a
there was no recession.
You made a point. Let him answer.
And there was we didn't shut down the economy. This is his
because
economy.
Swine flu wasn't as bad.
The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this
morning? Swine flu was just a test.
And had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far more people. Far more people.
And
you would have been.
And by the way, his own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way,
that's what Dr. Fauci said.
The whole notion of a vaccine. We're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't trust Dr. Fauci. Johnson, Pfizer.
Okay, by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on.
But I don't. In terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't trust Dr. Fauci. Johnson, Pfizer.
Okay, by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on to.
He didn't trust the Trump vaccine. Operation Warp Speed was all about the Trump vaccine. Look. They're playing both sides. They're both playing sides of the same thing.
Questions about the future, because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump You
'Cause now
have
they both support the
repeatedly
vaccine.
either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives.
God.
It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call
So
them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what I
that the
call them.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui,
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He
Dr.
said it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking about
after
when it's
that.
generally available. not when it
Well,
will
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up logistically. They're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This is
delivering
the
the
same
vaccine.
man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away.
I don't know how I feel about that listening back. So how else would you mass administer something to the entire populace? And both guys would have done it. Regardless. Trump was going to authorize the military to give it out. And Joe Biden just said, well, we'll fucking cancel your entire lineage if you don't get the vaccine. Yeah, nobody knows how that would have played out. Well, we did, kinda. Huh. Maybe I'm just overthinking that. But the way it sounds, Trump would have pushed it out maximum effort. And everyone has to take it. And you know who wouldn't have taken it? Democrats.
Way. By the warm weather,
According
it'd
to
be
Joe
gone.
Biden.
Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically.
That was
you
him.
know that.
I
That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal.
Unfortunately, liberals.
This man is talking about a
think so.
vaccine. Every serious company is talking
What's up,
about
Nunya?
maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out. If we get the vaccine, and pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the
Look at
public
that.
can trust
They're both fucking fixated on a vaccine. Holy shit.
the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more.
That's
than the
fucking
pres-
crazy. Because they were so fucking for it. But during the debates, they were like, oh, we're dead set on not getting it, blah, blah, blah. See what I said? It just happened.
You just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't, or
knows.
Senator
And
Harris is saying you
no,
can't trust the
No,
scientists.
well, no. You can trust the scientists. She
Wait.
didn't say that. You can't trust.
She said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists. There's
So
thousands of
Harris
scientists out
don't
there,
trust the
like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not. They're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
in fact,
scientists that are in
by
charge.
the way,
they will have
and
the vaccine very
does-
soon.
Let him finish.
you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID. He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market, one of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died. and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you
man.
know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done
Well,
nothing.
let's have this debate.
And if
We'll
you
see
would have
who's-
had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
You see,
and
he-
it's
We're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
okay.
It's going up fast. I look
Okay.
forward to
When
talking.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that to
them
Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to
The-
Nancy
the-
Pelosi. And
and
Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with
Okay.
the Senate.
But-
And he sits
sounds familiar.
sits in his golf course. And well, I mean,
Nah.
literally,
Okay.
think about it.
You
Freshman
probably play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact
Well, he wants to shut down this country,
Oh,
and I want to keep it open. And we
You
did a
get- he
great
just
thing by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute, Joe.
Well,
Let
you
me
did
shut
shut
you
it
down
down.
for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election.
All right,
yeah.
I
November
want to
3rd,
move on to another
because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to
thing.
another
I've
subject.
gotta
But
respond
those,
to that.
I
but
wanna
those
move-
states,
gentlemen, I
those
wanna move
states
on to
are
another
not
subject.
doing well that are shut down
which is
right
gotta
now.
respond to that.
President
shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are
of
okay.
of
You have
masks?
to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open.
What do you
We
mean?
provided money. The
But
Congress,
I was asking you, sir, about masks.
well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite.
Looks like that
They've
didn't work
also
either.
said the
No
opposite.
serious person said the opposite.
They've
no
also said, well, look at,
serious
All right, I
look
wanna
at
ask
Dr.
you-
Fauci. Dr.
Dr.
Fauci said
Fauci
the
said-
opposite.
not
I
say
want to
the
ask you, we got a
said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks good.
I
I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both about
masks.
one last subject because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside.
Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
Because nobody will show up.
people with.
Well, it's
With-
true. Nobody shows up to his
All
rallies.
right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You goes first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
I've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
for
not worried
hangars, and
about
we
the
have
disease
a lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours notice. and Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
Yes, sir.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people.
Okay.
That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no
cheek
negative
to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've
Come
had
on.
no negative effect, and we've had
Well,
35, 40,000
all right, you
people
wanna-
at these rallies.
Just
Yes.
quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing, but you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
Nobody cares.
gentlemen? Can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown
Much
This-
faster.
in the second quarter. The unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened
Weird that
from
he
China.
specifically
But
said
what
2
happened
million.
is we closed it down and now we're reopening and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening at some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because
1.2 million
they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You
in the
saw that.
U.S.
Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost, it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference
Yeah,
is
I don't even know what a K-shaped
millionaires and
recovery is.
billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion.
So did
because of his
politicians.
profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid
Well,
a total of $750 in
wrong.
taxes.
Sir,
Many
sir,
millions.
wait,
How
wait,
many-
no, sir, it's
It's
his
the wrong state.
Yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more.
The only ones
Why
that are
does he
allowed to
want to
work.
open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools, why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency, not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses, nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir. We are going to get to.
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me. He made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools. No, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And the people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know how I found out? When
gentlemen, we're going to get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers. I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax returns.
I went, you'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under leveraged because the assets are extremely good. And we have I built a great company.
I'm asking you a specific question, which is.
Let me tell you.
I understand all of that. I understand all of that. No, Mr. President, I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
Yeah, the Keystone Pipeline.
And you'll get to see it. And you'll get to
see it. I was pretty pissed off about one of my buddies from Iraq. He was actually, that was his bread and butter. He lost his job because of that. Still hasn't been able to recover. So yeah, that Keystone Pipeline, that was dumb. And that would have kept gas prices even lower.
Just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build the building and we get tax credits like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who in fact need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you weren't president. Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator.
You're the worst president America has ever had.
Hey, Joe, let me just tell you, Joe, I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing,
Okay,
including
gentlemen.
fixing the broken military that you gave me,
Let's-
including taking care
We're
of your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be
Yes,
elected
man.
president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like.
Right.
And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But
in
respectfully,
America.
sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when
dollars.
you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was
That's right.
your
I got
tax
it-
proposal.
I got it done. And you know what
Yeah,
happened?
you got it done.
Our economy boomed
And,
like it's never boomed.
The economy
Well,
is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let me
wait,
finish.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for the American people.
But let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery since economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty
Half
of
of the
companies that are
companies-
already here, they'll leave for
Hardly
other
any companies
places.
have
They will
poured in
leave,
here.
and you will have a
Have it.
depression, the likes
That-
of which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice President.
inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We
You don't
were
even know
able
what
to
the word
have an
recession
economic
means anymore.
recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
He blew
booming.
it. He
It
blew
wasn't booming.
It
It was
was,
it was the weakest recovery
Well, sir, is it
since
fair to wait? Is it fair
1929.
to say he blew it when, in
When
fact,
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait,
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you're on number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would
This
take
guy
a
is
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of my
not agree with that.
standard fare.
I'm the guy that
He
brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile industry.
manufacturing.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone.
You had to
He
bail
blew
him
it.
out.
And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies
No,
came in from Germany, from
not-
Japan,
no.
went to Michigan,
No,
went to
They're
Ohio.
not having.
And they
Mr.
didn't
Vice-
come
wait,
in
wait,
with
wait,
you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch.
All
Down
right, gentlemen,
18%.
in-
China ate your lunch, Joe. And
but-
no wonder your son goes in
They
and
still
he
are.
takes out billions of dollars, takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why is
Simply
it, just out of curiosity, The mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
That's
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is
did he do with Burisma
none
to
of that.
deserve
Wait,
$183,000?
None
You've
of
asked
that
your
is
question
true.
and answer. If,
None of that is
I
true.
think it's
Really?
true,
He didn't
though.
get
but no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally,
President, please.
totally
ask the question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait,
let's
he didn't
talk-
get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5 million.
President.
It was more like
it
5.
is not true.
Oh,
Here's-
really?
Mr.
Oh,
President,
But, Mr.
it's an open discussion, please.
Now,
It's a fact.
Well,
There's, it
you
is
have
not a
raised an
fact.
issue. Let the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
no
President,
job.
My son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he
and
did.
Mr.
The only
President,
guy that
let
did
him
something-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly
By
discredited.
who?
And
The media.
by everybody. Well, by
Hmm.
the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Matter
Dude,
of fact,
Mr.
even the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me
Under
ask you
oath.
this,
Henry-
Joe.
under
No, no,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm
Every-
listening
Wait,
to
so
you.
all those
people
people that
under-
testified
You
under
got
oath
$3.5
He
million
testified-
now
from
lie.
Moscow.
He testified under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I did
really?
it
I'd like to know
honorably.
who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them.
No,
testified.
no, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
Some people don't do
Well,
a good
here's
job. With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say
You get
here's
the,
the
wait a
deal.
minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
say, Joe.
No.
Hmm.
Mr. President.
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply.
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family,
No, no, let him go.
my
Let-
family
already
lost
wrote.
a fortune by
Go ahead.
coming down
Go
and
ahead.
helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's
Every-
such a.
they're right
that's
here.
a-
Mr.
That's
President.
such
Every
a great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
President.
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us with
family. It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect
people.
$3.5 million.
He doesn't. That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need.
Maybe if we'd
You,
known
the
about your
American
family,
people.
Joe,
It's about
probably
you.
would've lost.
That's what we're talking about.
you
here.
should
All right,
Not
that's the end
about
of
here.
that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
No,
honest.
I-
That's
He
a good
stood
thing.
up.
No,
he stood up
the answer to
and
the
he
question is no.
threatened Ukraine
No, sir.
with $1 billion
Sir,
if you don't
That
get rid of
is
the troops.
absolutely
You know what, you're-
not
stop.
You're on
true.
tape
You're-
doing it.
you're gonna
You're on
have-
tape.
True.
Gentlemen,
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice, but
he's
I see
on
it seems
tape.
to be.
It's funny
Why
when you
shouldn't I
think
be
about that.
different than the two of you?
Withholding the $1 billion of Ukraine aid because of the attorney or whatever prosecutor, but he made up for it by giving them billions and billions anyway.
So here's the
That's a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than,
Yeah,
sir, less
there's
than,
plenty.
no,
He
less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine
What's up,
people
James?
on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for Black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is,
Abraham
why
Lincoln
should
was black.
voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
You want to
It's
come up
about
there, brother?
equity and equality. It's about
Either one of you two.
decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president's ever
Finish
said
the
anything
statement.
like that.
Finish the
It
statement.
is whose
Now,
2
second-
minutes, sir.
Second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do?
Slack.
He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans.
What
This
the
man,
fuck?
this man is the savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did, and what he did has been disastrous
Oh, I
for
don't
the
have
African
the
American
person
community.
layout. There it is.
So
President Trump, you
What's
have
up,
2
fool?
minutes. Why should
What's up, man?
Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
he
racism?
did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never
said it.
forgotten it. They've never forgotten it,
I've
Joe.
never
No,
said
no,
it.
sir. It's his 2 minutes.
So
All right,
you
talk
did
now.
that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that
James.
you have treated the
Yes.
African American
All right, cool. I couldn't hear you. a second
population
ago. I turned
community,
the mic
you
up.
treated the black
Okay.
community about
Thanks,
as
man.
bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why if you look at the polls, I'm doing.
How much have you caught so far?
I get their debate. This is the 2020 debate when I'm guessing when Biden was running last time. Let's see. It's interesting. I don't think I caught this when it was on. So.
Yeah, I remember when I watched it the first time, I thought it was fucking childish. But now playing it back, listening to some of the shit, I'm like, wow, these guys are either full of shit or they're part of the same team.
I'm leaning towards the both full of shit, but I've seen other debates. I think the Clinton versus Trump one, I was like, a lot of the mannerisms I did gather at that point that this was like a big scheme, like it didn't actually matter who won, like this was some kind of planned like event. It seemed that way. So it may very well be.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, it may very well be that they're on the same side and they're just trying to kind of make it look like they're competing.
Doing better than any Republican has done in a long time because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law
Just
enforcement.
random thought. So, you know the sheriff that was in charge of Las Vegas during that shooting?
Hmm.
You also know he's the sheriff that's in charge in Hawaii of Maui.
Oh, that is interesting.
Fun
Yeah.
fact.
Because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide. You said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement.
Pause it right here.
Enforced. Yep. But look, the vast.
Yeah. Is it just B, or does it seem like he's reading from a script in that last bit?
I've been saying that since the beginning because he keeps looking down, and I was like, "There's nothing he's saying is unscripted." So that's why it brings me more to believe like this whole thing,
right,
was a sham.
Yeah. And see the strings on this cheap puppet show, man. That's how it is.
Maybe they don't expect people to go back and dissect these.
Yeah.
That's probably it. Police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House. Well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it, but we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate.
One of the things he doesn't remember is that it took a Republican to bring up legislation to prevent things like that from happening, to end qualified immunity.
Yeah. Another interesting thing too, I've noticed this with some videos that we actually tried to upload on TikTok. A big step that was proposed, I forget, it was either Obama or Trump that this actually came out, that for more accountability, they started saying that they should require the police to wear body cams on them, or at least encourage people to have cameras on them. But I noticed when we actually upload body cam footage of suggested police brutality, social media sites insist it gets taken down. So
100%.
So who exactly is for this accountability if when they put body cams on them we can't watch it? So.
Well, you're not supposed to say that part.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, it's all in how you frame it, Mr. Propaganda Man.
Yeah.
Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is
up,
peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place, and you say peaceful protest?
President Trump,
No, it's not, but you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the issue of race. I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And
before he answers that, I know why. Look what happened now. We got DEI and, well, race and diversity has become more of a topic than it was back then. Let's just say that.
All right.
Do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place. And you know it, and so does everybody else. And he would know.
What is radical about racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place. It's a racist place. And they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. he's
Oh,
the racist.
You just don't.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this.
don't
than he
know.
does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what
Says
insults
the
them, what
racist
is
senator.
demeaning to them. It's important to people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't
What?
have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson. You go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but the
Lord.
reason
This
is that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are you in favor of law and order? Go
Yes,
ahead.
I'm
say
a
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
law and order.
Loses
Law and order.
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is,
Huh.
violent crime went down 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down
He-
much more
he
in
had-
ours.
All right, we're
He
now.
is president of the United States of America.
Mr. President,
every record in the book.
Mr. President, you're going to be very happy because
And the
we're now going to
places-
talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly
those
my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If
Yeah,
you
can
look
you follow
at
the
New
place?
York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen
It's a
anything.
normal weekend in Chicago, though.
Yeah, and murder rate typically does spike in the summertime regardless. I feel like this is a misdirection in a lot of ways.
Well, it's funny you say that because then when we were deployed, a lot of times during the winter month, the activity dropped because obviously it does get cold in the desert, believe it or not. And by cold, I mean like 50. But once spring would start happening, summer came in, man, those were the dog days of the fights.
I believe you.
Numbers are going up 100, 150, 200% crime. It
Republican
is
cities.
crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have
We would
our
run it
suburbs
the
would
way-
be gone. By the way,
Suburbs.
our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've
He
never
would
seen.
know a
before.
suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
I was
better.
Wait,
raised.
go ahead.
I was,
Wait a minute.
I was
So much
raised
better.
in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large
Work for you.
integrated. There's many people today driving their
Right.
kids to soccer practice and or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing.
Yeah.
First of all, what does reimagining policing mean? And do you support,
It means
let me, if I might finish the question, what does reimagining policing mean? And do you support the Black Lives Matter
Well, that was a
call
loaded question.
for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding, and his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people
Bro,
down.
that is not
We have
gonna
to have
happen.
community policing like we had before.
It never has, never will.
Yeah, no, dude. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to cut him off like that, but
His false sense of security is kind of odd.
yeah.
Where the officers
Filling
get
in
to
when he's
know the people
had Secret
in the
Service
communities.
47
That's when
years.
crime went
Right.
down. It didn't go up; it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what
in
they're
prevent-
talking about,
that's-
Chris. That's
well,
not what
that-
they're
that's
He's talking
exactly-
about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any
What-
law
Well, you
support.
look,
He has no.
No, funny thing. Talking about defund the police. Now, if you look at it, a lot of us do support defunding the police, but we just don't realize it. What do you think about the FBI?
I knew somebody a long time ago that was interning there, but as an organization, they can suck it.
What do you know about the ATF?
They can especially suck it.
DEA?
Oh God, no! Hold on, I'm out of sucking. I'm sorry, dude. Like it keeps getting worse and worse every.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Defunding the federal police. They want to
Yeah.
defend local police.
I see what you're talking about here. It's an interesting point. Yeah, because when you think of like the normal cops, day to day, like we're the ones they see. But yeah,
Mhm.
I'm actually more in favor of the federal police of defunding the federal police than I would.
Oh
be
yeah,
of the
yeah,
local
100%.
Yeah.
But it's funny when you think about it. So when people say, "I don't support defunding the police," yeah, I
Mm.
do. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, it's interesting too. Whenever we talk about like, okay, let's talk about the actual budget. They always propose something nobody's gonna want to do. Like it's always like, let's defund. Like, how about like, let's say for example, back to the DEA. Like, how much money are we wasting on this boondoggle war on drugs? As opposed to, like I said, it's not even like we would cost extra money. We already have more or less public money going to health clinics to treat drug addicts and stuff like that. So if we just cut the, like I said, like cut the DA, cut the program, that's more space in prisons for, we don't have to put these drug dealers in there unless they kill somebody, obviously, but or
Actually,
some other crime.
Did you watch my video the other day?
I think I did miss it. I'm sorry about that.
There was one I was talking to. It was a guy, a former inmate, talking about why there's so many people in prison and how it's fraud, a huge fraud. So yeah, you might want to check that one out, dude. It was interesting to hear that guy talk.
Yeah. Hop on your channel in a minute and check it out, dude. That does sound interesting, but like it's like stuff like that though. Like I said, more space in prisons, less money going towards this boondoggle. Cutting that cost would actually give them more money to do legitimate stuff, like what our buddies are doing and catching pet. The police could do more of that with this money that they're instead busting drug dealers with. Like
Minor offenses, victimless crime, so to speak.
more, yeah, exactly. So, but again, instead of proposing that, it's like, let's defund the police. Let's take money from old people. It's like guys, there's more than one way to attack the budget, and there is this. I get that it's not an easy decision, but there is more practical solutions than the one they come out and say we should do this, and then nobody says yes because it's bullshit what they actually said they wanted to
doesn't
do.
get you votes though.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're probably right about that one.
Because remember, people they just go with what that guy said I should do this. I got you. All right.
Right. Yeah.
So why not? I don't have to do any research. I totally trust this guy because his name's Donald.
Yeah. I mean, Donald Duck seemed like a trustworthy guy.
Law enforcement.
That's not true.
Idiot.
Almost
That's
nothing.
not. Look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go
Look,
ahead.
look.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
No,
anything.
think
All right.
about it.
Look,
Name
folks,
one law enforcement group that came out and
I think,
supported
gentlemen,
you,
I think
Joe.
I'm going to take back the
There aren't.
moderator's
I don't
role,
think there are any.
and I want to get to another subject, which is the
True,
issue of
Two-Face,
protests in
100%
many
true.
cities that have
Absolutely.
turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned
We're not
into
peaceful.
riots. Mr. Vice President, you say
Now, who
that
runs
people
Portland?
who commit crimes should be held
Democrat.
accountable. The question I have, though, is as
Like
the
Trump was
Democratic
saying.
nominee, and earlier tonight you said
But
that
I
you
think I
are the
looked at it.
Democratic.
Out of the top 10, I think they're about even as far as run cities. But that might have been a little bit ago. But I think, yeah, they were about even on Republican and Democrat run cities being the top 10 in crime.
Party right now.
Sorry, this weed's
Have you
kicking in,
ever
so it's
called
good.
the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you'd stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it.
But
should
you've
be
never called
prosecuted.
for the people,
He's never
the
said
leader.
that.
Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to call
Because
it, bring in
they-
the National Guard and knock
You know-
off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
here-
Oh, really?
Here's the
But
thing.
I sent in the
wait, I
U.S.
asked him a
Marshals to
question.
get the killer of the
that-
young man in the
Maybe
middle
it
of the
was
street. And
governor.
they shot him. And
Right.
for 3
Mr.
days,
President
and
Trump,
just-
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything.
please
I had to
interrupt
send in
and-
the U.S. Marshals.
President
They
Trump,
took care of business.
go ahead,
And,
sir.
and by the way, his own former spokesperson said, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all
I
about.
don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that.
I don't-
And so here's
I
the,
don't think he said
but
that.
here's the point.
Go ahead,
Point
sir.
is that that's what he is, keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to.
Hey, Moments, how you doing?
Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly,
And-
every single solitary
Okay,
time.
and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly
Well, wait, I
criticized.
have to answer his
No,
statement.
you have
His statement.
repeatedly.
Wait,
You have
just one
no.
second.
You've been talking
He
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to
know,
end it.
sir.
I would love to end it. and
if
we would
you want to
very
switch seats,
We would
could
very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd
I'm
send
no,
in the
I'm-
National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay,
But they
good.
don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized
Whoa!
the vice president for not specific.
Was that like foreshadowing?
Hmm.
Because guess what they didn't want on January 6th?
Ooh, that is an interesting point. Yeah.
Because they didn't want the National Guard.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Maybe it's, I don't know, coincidence? Probably.
Maybe. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like me and Nunya have talked about this too. A lot of people think in the Second Amendment where they say well-armed militia, a lot of people think they mean like the National Guard or the Reserves.
No,
Like,
no, that's not it.
dude. That's not what they meant. They are not the militia. They are still the government. So
Because the militia is an army. Oh, not militia. The National Guard is an army. The militia
Yeah.
is not, because you got a militia, it could just be me and you deciding, hey, we're going to go defend our country. These guys are literally an organized army, so they have to follow rules.
right. More specifically, they follow the government's rules. A militia would
That's
be
what I meant.
our own organization. Like if we had a private like military contractor or something, or if we formed a group and said, "Hey guys, let's just do what's right," and just kind of armed ourselves and like organized and trained these people and stuff like that.
But you know what they do to those people?
Kill them.
Yeah, go ask David Koresh.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting point, but I'm gonna have to tease that one a little bit later. But yeah, exactly though, 100% with David Koresh. Yep.
specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing
Whoa.
tonight to condemn white supremacy?
Where? Two-Face?
Hmm?
Because that is very interesting to me.
We have seen those Two-Faced, yes, and they are real. And
Oh no, 100% real. I think there's tunnels all under this country.
yeah,
The real underground railroads, so to speak.
yep. Yeah, they're under Walmart. They're
They're under everything.
They are, dude. It's crazy.
Premises and militia.
Hell, they're under the White House. They're under every state capital.
Mhm.
Think about all these big cities. How many floors down are previous? Well, you know what? That's a whole different thing right there.
Yeah.
Groups,
Sure.
and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland.
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared
to
to
do that,
specifically
but
Do it.
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right
So
wing.
what are you
If
what
look,
are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to
supremacists.
condemn?
White
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right-wing
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a
the threat
left-wing
of
problem.
white
Go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an
Oh,
organization.
you got to be
not
kidding.
militia.
Oh,
His
what?
It's an idea.
FBI.
Hold up.
is-
What? He
What?
really doesn't. Hold on. That can't be right.
Not an
Oh,
organization.
you got it.
Go
Left-wing
ahead,
problem.
Wait a minute.
Right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director.
This
said
is a
the threat
left-wing
of
problem.
white
Go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an
Oh,
organization.
you got it.
not militia. That's what
That was.
What?
I remember him saying it. It wasn't Trump's, but it was the FBI at one point, and then he ran with that.
Wow. Antifa's not an organization. That's
Right.
awesome.
It's an ideology, not an organization. And when you ask Antifa, they're like, well, yeah, because we have no hierarchy. We're just a bunch of people all with the same cause. Yeah, but who organizes this shit? You guys just don't go, well, all 700 of us, we're just going to go walk to Atlanta and see what happens.
Yeah.
his
It's an idea.
FBI, his
Okay.
FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well, then you know what?
No,
He's
we're
wrong.
done. We're done, sir. We're
Everybody-
moving
The
on to the
FBI
next.
would
we're
obviously
moving-
never
That's
lie.
over the head. That's
Administration.
not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is bad.
administration tells
No,
you
the
truth
FBI is
about
not an
bad
organization, it's an
ideas.
Tell you
idea.
what,
You have no
Yeah.
ideas. that are-
Antifa is a
Whoa, why haven't they run with that?
They
That would get
totally
people
should.
trust.
Yeah.
Oh, stupid.
dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen, we're
group,
now moving on to the Trump
and
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful
records.
with them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record.
Right.
But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying,
Which is funny because when you think about it, we were on a good relationship with Russia. As bad as people say that was, that's actually good. Keep your enemies close. But what was I talking about before that? I brought that Russia.
He was talking about unity. The economy was good. Unemployment was
Right.
low, and then
Well,
you said
he was the first president to step foot and meet with the North Korean president. He was the first one willing to even talk to him face to face or even meet with him. Crazy.
That I swear this might be Mandela effect, but I think I vaguely remember Obama meeting with Kim Jong Un. But No,
Nope.
that would be. Oh wow.
Or
Damn.
if he did, he was the first sitting president to step into North Korea. One of those two.
Yeah, I believe you. Yeah, I'm leaning more to, like I said, it might be that Mandela effect. I got an interesting somebody brought up the because all this stuff about Mandela effect, it came up around the same time as when we found the Higgs boson particle, and somebody told me that their dad thinks that they basically like split like the space time continuum or stuff again. That's actually why people are remembering things differently.
That's crazy to think of.
Yeah, it is. And I remember, like, because remember when I first heard about it, it's like, oh, these guys are all just remembering it wrong, or whatever. But it's actually that connection
That
actually
is
does
something
make a
to
lot of
think
sense,
about.
though. Yeah.
But how do
Yeah.
I remember things the way I remember it, and I can find evidence though. But some people think I'm fucking nuts.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like I remember when there was an actual gigantic continent on the northern hemisphere opposite of Antarctica.
There still is, I think. Yeah.
No longer a continent anymore.
Oh, like it was 8 continents?
Yep.
When did you learn this?
In the 80s?
That might be it. Because I remember, because when I was a kid, they taught us that there were 9 planets and now there's 8. It may have just decided that the top one wasn't a continent anymore.
I think it went back to Pluto being a planet again. It goes back and forth. Depends on who they talk to.
Man, these people need to make up their goddamn. It's either a planet or 8, motherfucker. Dude, like,
You remember
on.
they went back and forth because I was like, this is bullshit. Pluto's a planet. No, it doesn't classify. And then a couple years later, yeah, it's a planet. Like it was a fucking couple years ago. So,
I don't know.
right, eat a dick. We're not a planet either. We're just a clump of cells.
Yeah.
It's time, maybe.
we are
and then
too.
what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets.
Oh,
But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say,
I want to
maybe
know
the
what they were
most important.
taking those. I
By
want
the
to go
end of the
visit that
first term,
clinic. What fucking clinic were the people he interviewed going to? That's who I wanted. I want to be part of that clinic. I'll fucking move if I have to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, I was curious. So I'm sensing that some bullshit talk coming out of Trump's mouth just now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I have a theory. Hear me out here. Because there are places that do stuff like this. So, like for example, they could interview and survey people, but there's ways to influence their answers. They may have pre-screened a clinic to kind of get this kind of response from them, and then use that to say that this about the VA. That
Well,
may
if
have been
they
what-
did, I know which ones they probably went to. Ones that are closer to military installations like Fort Bragg or Fort Hood. Because they're going to have good VAs because they're still right next to a post.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Or a VA like in the one in the Philippines. They're all going to say it's great because it's the only VA clinic they have. I don't know.
Well, there's only one VA in the Philippines, really?
Yeah, it's in Manila.
Oh, interesting. That makes sense. So maybe. So I'm kind of just drawing off of So, like for example, there's areas where there's only one electric company or one, utilities or internet service provider. The one here, we definitely don't say this is the best electric company in the world because it's the only one. So,
compared to anything else, so it is the best one in the world.
It's the best one in this particular region. There's no competition.
Your world, that's the only thing you know.
True. True.
Not it not necessarily means the world, it just means your world.
Right. The best one that I have access to, basically.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know, one of the reasons I'll have so many judges, because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings. And if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges. It's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of.
Wow. Yeah, you're fucking Putin's big daddy, motherfucker. Look how well that's working out right now. You're going to give Ukraine billions and billions of dollars that we can give to our own fucking people because Putin's our daddy. Oh, wait, you're Putin's daddy. Wait. Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, I swear, dude, I would almost kill somebody. No, I would literally kill somebody to see Joe Biden react to him saying this with the administration he ran in the last 4 years. Like,
right?
Oh yeah.
They won't play this one back, but guess what?
Right.
I did.
Yeah.
I think it's even better now because I can look back and that I'm stoned as fuck, so I get to see it in different eyes. Play.
American soldiers.
Your son got
No.
$3.5 million.
And by the way,
Mr.
my
President,
son.
wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed
to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
And by the way, my son.
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it. And why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word. Can you add
No,
back
no, I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot.
Wait a second.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that one out too.
All right. Having been in during the Trump administration and having been in during the Obama administration and seeing what I see with this president, Donald Trump was always around the troops. He was. He was in Iraq with us. He was in Afghanistan with us. He visited. I don't remember Obama visiting us. A small little bit remembers Hillary Clinton. But Joe Biden so far out of his 3 years has spent almost a year of that on vacation.
Hmm.
So I doubt he has ever visited the troops outside of the continental United States, except for maybe the ones in Poland, because we're just there for training missions. We're not there for occupying that area. That's why
Yeah.
we have a yearly rotation for different units now. Okay.
Right. That's yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And the people left behind
Oh,
there
really?
were heroes.
Really?
And I
Are
resent
you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm
Hunter?
talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're
I
talking
don't know.
about
I don't
payload.
know, Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah, you
Hunter
know
got
Bo.
thrown. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged
Cocaine.
That's not true. It
for
wasn't
cocaine
dishonorably.
use.
It
And
was
he didn't
cocaine,
have a
yep.
job until you became vice president. Once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made a
son-
fortune,
My
Gentlemen,
son,
and he didn't have a job.
my son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why
I'm
was he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All
of
right.
But
dollars?
he wasn't given
All right.
tens of millions
was
of
given
dollars. That
tens
is
of
totally,
millions of
that
President
is
Trump-
totally
President Trump,
discredited.
you've already been
Totally.
Are you still proud of
Holy
him?
shit.
What the fuck? What?
Everything this motherfucker just said is a bold-faced fucking lie.
Yeah. It's like he's still got drug problems, and he did
I will, Two-Face. But, oh my god. The drug problems. Oh, he got paid millions, all right. Wow, Joe. How do you feel about that?
Already discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people
And
would rather
discredited.
hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make
I know,
a
but when
judgment call
somebody
here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay,
from
right.
the
Let's talk
mayor of
about-
Moscow,
let's
That
talk
is
about-
not
I think
true.
it's a terrible
That
thing.
report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers'
Gen-
money. That report, it was written for political reasons.
Well, I trust Mitt
I'd like
Romney.
to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
The forest
obviously you
fires
do.
in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fire.
Okay, before we hear the responses, I'm so glad a fire just happened in Maui, so we can see if the response matches his response.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing to compare. All right.
Fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord.
Oh, okay. It has
You
nothing
have
to do with
rolled back
fires.
a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very
Do you
exciting
believe
for a lot of people.
that human
But you're also
pollution,
tearing down
greenhouse
billions
gas
and
emissions
billions of
contributes to the global warming of
I
this
think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes.
Good
I think to
examples
an
here on
extent, yes. But I
Campbell,
also
man.
think we
we
have
had
to
this
do.
little center that had about 50 trees, beautiful trees, and they tore them all down for no fucking reason. But then they planted 50 more trees. But how many of those 50 are going to survive? You've had trees that have been there for well over 10, 15 years. They're well established. They're not going anywhere, and they're great for the environment. but you want to put a flimsy tree in that you still have to have tied down for like a year or two.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, they build artificial forests here too, and I don't know. I don't get it. Like, I assumed for a long time that they were regrowing them after, the lumber industry was regrowing them to meet regulations or something. But it's crazy that they're just tearing down. I don't know, dude. It's just nuts.
Yeah,
It's
they're
like,
tearing them down just to tear them down, or they just have a giant brush fire for free real estate.
right, exactly. They're just trying to make it look like
Better
something else.
management of our
Right.
forests. Every year, I get the call: California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, "Sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem." I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
But, sir,
That's burning down because of a lack of
but
management.
sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars?
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car. And you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen because
Actually,
of
he's
the
right
cost of the
about that,
car,
'cause the
you would have
emissions
at least
have changed over obviously the past fucking however fucking long we've had these cars, to where they're safer, cleaner gas, cleaner oil, everything that comes out's cleaner than it was.
Mhm.
So, I mean, why not continue using fuel?
Yeah, and from the business perspective, they're always made out to be, but from their perspective, even for the sake of keeping costs low, it actually makes more sense to increase fuel efficiency because it'll lower the costs, not just for the consumer, they can buy more stuff, but also, meet these regulations and make cost of production lower and things like that. So it actually does make sense that they would do this. And I don't remember what administration did this, but I remember not that it's a good idea, but statistically it usually works. That I know people are like, oh, tax breaks this, but one thing that I discovered that has actually been really effective is that offer tax breaks on contingencies of, like, for example, if you lower your gas emissions by 30%, then we'll give you a tax break. But the ones they usually propose are, a lot of times they'll just give them tax breaks and assume they're going to do what they want. It's like, well, no, they're not going to fucking do that. Like, so. But like I said, there's a good way and a bad way to kind of meet in the middle like this. But
I
that's
just
just
think
my
it's gonna get a lot weirder when everything, these green city, smart cities, what they call them now, right?
Oh God, fuck that. Ugh.
So these cities are gonna be, I don't necessarily how they think, wind power is gonna be better for the environment when it's bad for the birds. It's
No, there are
bad
no
for
birds,
the
though.
right. But if they were real, they're bad for
Right.
the dragons.
Right.
Dragons are blind, man. They can't see anything unless they're blowing fire. So
Right.
apparently they can't afford the fuel to blow fire anymore. So
Right.
now they just keep
Exactly.
hitting these windmills.
Hmm.
Not sure where I was going with that, but fuck dragons, dude. We gotta
Yeah.
save the dragons.
Yeah. No, you were talking about these smart cities. I think, like,
Yeah, these 15-minute smart cities, and that's another thing about the Maui fire. That's proposed before the fires even happened.
oh, that is interesting. Hmm.
Do you understand the concept of the 15-minute cities? I think we talked about it.
I think we have. It's. I
So
think it's.
basically, everything you need will be within 15 minutes walking distance
Yeah.
from where you live.
Yeah, and it sounds cool, but it's basically you'll own nothing like in the city. You'll just
Yeah,
and
it's
you like
the dystopian environment.
yeah, and like you won't even really be able to leave either. Like it'll be like a walled-in city kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's like
And
fuck
that's
that.
what they want to do over there. On top of that, they're all these fucking rich people, they own houses on Maui. And some of the video, I can't remember if I did a video or not, but they were showing that you could see the line of fire, and then they miss mansions, but they somehow, get the locals' houses.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. And then, Biden's offering them $700 a household, just because of what happened. But you got real estate developers jumping right in, and realtors trying to buy these properties from people like that
Hmm.
for obviously cheaper than they would have gotten it for. And then there's also they were talking about the land that wasn't developed on was still part of native land, and that they were trying to grab it for them, especially the governor, so he could build housing on it. And oh look, it got burned. It's no longer good
Hmm.
for stuff. Let's use it. Let's get
Hmm.
it. Let's grab it and use it. Another land grab.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of things going on in Maui, and the residents they know what's up. They're pissed.
You're right. Exactly.
Double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But in the case of
$3,500.
California, they've simply
No,
ignored
but you would take
your
a lot of cars
roadmap.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me. Many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And and I'm okay with electric cars too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery
I bet
Act,
you he wants to reverse that
bring down
motherfucker
the
right now.
cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on.
They want to get rid of fossil fuels, so that it has to be fucking 15-minute cities. That forces the 15-minute cities idea to come through. So you won't need a car. And think about it. If you keep the populace in these 15-minute cities and they can't leave, you can do whatever the fuck you want on the outside of these cities. And you have your own enslaved population that just think, oh, I'm saving the environment.
Right. Interesting point.
It's crazy, I know.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, I was thinking of something else, like just the whole like, oh yeah, would we lose? Of course we would, but I've wondered off and on frequently, like, okay, if we get rid of fossil fuels, what are we going to replace them with? And if we replace them with nothing, yes, the 15-minute city thing. But I keep thinking, like, I think a lot of people would be thinking more alternatives like biodiesel or something, like, fuel can be made from algae and things like that. Like, just different. There's like, it's just the fact that we've been using and again, like, I've actually got my own. The website's taken down now, but I have my own bit about fossil fuel not even really being a non-renewable resource because back to Russia, they have their own theory about that it's actually produced, that oil is actually produced by cooling of magma that rises from the earth. And they've actually discovered that the amount of oil pockets in Canada, I think, was actually greater than the amount of known fossils in that area. And they found like methane and shit like on other planets where they believe life never existed. So there's actually big amount of evidence suggesting that fossil fuels are that basically fossil fuels are not finite, that they actually can be renewed.
Right.
So, and basically it goes to economics that the oil companies are aware of this, and they're basically letting everybody think that it's finite so they can jack up prices. So that's kind of a spotlight I did, but the website got taken down, not because of this, interestingly enough. But yeah, I got to do another video about that now because I've got all the audio still. Fuck you guys for taking the website down, but
fuck was that? FBI, fucking FBI, man. All right.
Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. Like, I'm all for moving to another fuel source if it's more efficient. But it will. Again, I don't know why Joe Biden thinks it's not going to cost people their jobs. And
it already has. The second he jumped into office, he cut 2,400 jobs with one cut.
Right.
Making sure that we can do that. We're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15.
Maybe you could give me some insight on this, Javi. Why do presidents think they're going to carry out plans of actions that are longer than their term of office would be? Do they put in like a law, like keep doing this after I'm not president anymore? Like, I don't understand that.
No. Because what the next thing does, just like what Biden did with the Trump tax codes, reverse, erase.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? That's exactly what happens. Unless you have like continuity as far as like one Republican to another or one Democrat to another, it's gonna automatically be like, yep, fuck that, those didn't work, but they were working. Yeah, fuck that, those didn't work. Yeah, we know they didn't work, so we're gonna fix them. And it's a cycle.
Right. Yeah.
Until you can actually get, like, these guys have to get on one common idea, which, that's how this country was based on, freedom. But they want to, their idea of freedom is not the same. And I think that's where we get a lot of this struggle.
Yeah.
That they cause, obviously. They create the problem. They have to fix it. We self-correct it, and they create the problem again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
An hour, but prevailing wage by having a new infrastructure that in fact is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, makes sure that he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is a guy who says that Well, the fact that
true? Not true.
it's all true. And here's
He's
the
talking
deal.
about the Green New Deal, and it's not 2 billion
I'm-
or 20 billion, as you said.
I'm
It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they
the
want to rip
Biden
down
plan.
Go for a
buildings
minute, and then you can go.
and rebuild the building.
No,
It's the
that is
dumbest,
not-
most
that
ridiculous.
is not-
Where airplanes are out of
Wait a minute, sir.
business,
That's a-
where two-car systems are out, where they
Not
want
true.
to take out the cows too.
Not
That's not
true.
true either, right?
Not
This is
true.
a 100
Simply,
trillion.
look,
That's more money than
that
our
is-
country could make in
that is
100
simply
years if we're going.
not the case.
All right, let
It
me
will-
let me let
it
me
will
let me
destroy
because,
our
because I
country.
actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy efficient homes.
Can I get some of that money to weatherize and energy efficient my house? Where was that
Yeah.
shit? Where'd that come from? I want some of that.
Yeah. Can I get some
use
of
new
the
windows?
I know, dude. Yeah, we found out how much money they were. I swear, dude. He literally
Dude,
just
windows
said,
are
"I'm gonna."
ridiculous.
What?
I was like, man, I thought about replacing all the windows in my house, and like, okay, I expected it to be a lot, not $40,000 a lot, but they have a window, little octagon window for a closet, and that alone was $2,000. I'm like, you guys are fucking retarded. I'll deal with it. I'll wait till something happens.
Right, exactly. Fucking A, man. That's a big problem too. A lot of people overcharge for their services. That's really where
Yeah.
a lot of these costs come from. I get wanting to make a living wage, but it's like
Yeah,
back
but
to
when these
the
guys go around like selling these windows, they don't care because guess what? When you buy the windows, they get paid.
Hmm.
Like I don't care if you pay $120 or fucking $40,000. He's gonna make a commission anyway.
right, exactly. Oh yeah, the
But
guy selling it. Yeah.
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 But man, if they really wanted to make this country, like he said, where's this money at? How come it didn't happen? Oh, fuck. You know why I didn't get it?
Why?
Some motherfucker in that 51st state of Ukraine got it.
Oh
God
yeah.
damn it.
No, guys, they're making a movie, okay? That's the movie budget. Okay.
Yeah.
We're not just no, it's an investment. That's right.
It's an
Yeah.
investment with no
Yeah.
return.
Yeah. Still trying to
So the
get with the
question
IRS. I can... yeah, that
Oh, yeah,
investment. I'm still trying to get with the IRS about doing a tax write-off for that, so I can get some of that back. that investment.
Yeah, good luck.
That I didn't agree to. Yeah.
The president
Yes,
is saying,
yes,
I'm sure
100%.
some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good
$100
paying
trillion.
jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100
They-
billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good paying jobs, and these tax incentives to people for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
That's
at all.
he did say.
You
That'd be
made it up.
interesting. Trying that.
And here's the deal.
You make up a lot.
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars now, on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. That didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen,
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is
not
not
20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
the Green
well,
New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is
building.
not my plan.
You want to
All
rebuild
right.
every
If he
have-
knew
you have to-
anything
wait a
about,
minute, wait.
if he knew
Gentlemen,
He
anything
made a
about,
statement
Gentlemen.
about the military. He said, I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the military
Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He
That-
said
Mr.
stupid
Please,
bastards. He
not
said
sir,
it.
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that.
play it.
to the military.
Play it.
Go ahead.
You're
Mr.
on
Vice
tape.
President
Uh,
answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm
was.
having a little
right.
trouble- I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the
I mean, even if he did, he has to look down on the teleprompter anyways. He won't
Right,
answer you.
exactly. Yeah.
economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
Oh, he's
The,
done
the
yet?
economy. The
I mean, the
economy-
Green New Deal and the
The-
idea of what
the
your
Green
environmental
New
changes
Deal-
will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting
So
plants.
do you
We're going to
support
build.
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
You support?
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New
you
Deal.
don't? Oh,
You
well,
don't?
that's a
You
big
let-
statement.
I
That
support
means
the
you just
Biden-
lost the radical left.
I,
That's
su-
done.
I support
you
the
don't.
Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment, election integrity. As we meet tonight,
Oh,
millions
here
of
we go.
Americans are
Okay.
receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks? Because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let
Yeah.
people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com, decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote.
What?
His own Homeland Security
What
Director
the
and
fuck
as
is he
well as
talking
the FBI
about?
Director says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're
That's
going to make
pretty
sure
poor
that those
from DC.
people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into
Wait.
thinking that it's not going to be legitimate.
Did you say polls are stayed open till all the votes are counted? Give me a second.
All right.
Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? Or you get 4 more years of these lies.
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our first lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan.
Wow.
You're right about one thing. This gives a lot of insight looking back at it, and that's like,
They're telling you the play-by-play.
yeah.
Wow, man.
Indeed.
That's eerie.
I think you're right. I think this was all staged.
Well, there's another debate after this, but I'm probably not going to do that on this one because this has been already been 2 hours.
Yeah.
But that's fucking insane, dude. It's a play-by-play. Almost like everyone's doing a play-by-play on 1984 as the playbook.
Yeah. No, I thought that was the instruction manual for the NSA.
Well, yeah, that too. But
yeah,
that's besides the point. They wouldn't do it. Our government would never do that to us.
Right, of course. It is a spectacle, though, in some way. I don't know, man. It's kind
This
of
is
crazy.
interesting, man.
Yeah.
We've been. Wow. I'm gonna have to think about this one a little more.
Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that, all run by
2
Democrats.
minutes is 2 minutes.
All run by Democrats. It's
President Trump.
It's a rigged election.
You're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them. We don't like them. We don't like them.
But what
they
are you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it?
left
There
and
are
right.
millions of ballots going out
What
right
you
now.
do
What are
is you
gonna
go
do?
and vote. You do a solicited ballot,
No,
and that's okay, or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people.
You go and vote. You go and vote.
But
Like
what I'm
they,
saying is, what are
like
you
they
gonna do
used.
So thousands and thousands of veterans, not veterans, active duty military, used to do mail-in voting. They would give us our form, August, and say you have to mail it in by this date in order for your vote to count. That way, on election day, there was no ifs, ands, or buts. You didn't have to wait a whole week to count all the mail-in votes. It's kind of weird. That started happening between these last 2 elections. 3.
Yeah, that is weird. Like, so I'm assuming the date wasn't like November. It was like an earlier date, right? It wasn't
No, it had
like
been a much earlier date, like the beginning of maybe mid-October.
Okay. That actually sounds pretty reasonable, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Especially because you got to get the people from overseas time to, in case the mail's slow for some reason.
Right.
About the fact that millions of people.
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country. This is not going to end well.
Actually, there was evidence because there was ladies found boxes and boxes of votes. That's
Oh no, somebody sent me. I think I still have it. I gotta send you this though. Um, you probably seen this. The 12,000 mules or however many
Yes,
mules.
I've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that, like, honestly, like, every election, there's people speculating that it was fixed, but this one especially was shady to me because there was actually some effort to suppress it. I'm like, well, hold on a minute. If you know it's not true, why are you suppressing it? Like,
Right?
so that's where I've really started to get more on this. Like, before I was like, okay, everybody says this, everybody does this, but it's like, wait, but before there was this thing like the flat earthers and some of these other conspiracies, they didn't suppress conspiracies before, or quote
Nope.
unquote conspiracies. They came out, and like scientists or whoever would come out and say, okay, well, here's the facts we have and here's our rebuttal to it and here's our response. It's only in the last few years that they started saying, no, we just can't have them talking about it. And that's the part that I think is really shady with a lot of the newer ones, with a lot of what's been happening with some of the newer ones. But
Dude,
like
look
the
at Biden's
mules
face.
one, yeah, he looks like oh Megan, I'm really holding in a dump right now. Can we
Yeah.
get this
I
over
mean, that's
with?
how he looks now for real, though, but still.
For real, yeah.
Well, goddamn, this whole like, remember what I said? This election might have been legit, but not. It's even worse now. Going back and watching,
Yeah,
I don't understand. I really want to see the second debate and see what else we can catch.
yeah.
This has been an eye opener so far.
It has.
5 states
fact,
have had
go ahead,
mail-in
sir.
ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What we're saying is, they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by
Okay.
election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still
no.
should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because he
You're
knows what the
wrong.
outcome
You're
is.
wrong.
No,
love
I
counting
want
the
to
votes.
continue with you on
I
this,
love counting
Vice
the
President
votes.
Biden.
Chris,
because
he's so wrong when he makes
in
a
fact,
statement
no,
like that.
excuse me, Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they
That can
missed
be fraud.
the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse
Wait.
me,
No,
Chris,
no, no.
when you
I
have
have a-
Who's gonna
Hold
send
on,
a
yeah.
mail-in ballot and call and be like, "Oh man, I meant to change my vote. Can you do that shit for me before you scan it?"
Right. Yeah, speaking of boondoggles, that's tying up the court system with a lot of bullshit, making everybody fill out affidavits and verify in a
Right?
hearing that they voted this way. Like, yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
All right. I mean, I totally trust Biden because now, holy shit, is he looking at a kid?
I mean, he's got his tongue out. It looks like he might be.
Motherfucker.
Damn.
Joe, she's probably 20. She's Asian, so be careful.
All right.
80 million ballots.
Gentlemen, I have a final
Sending
question.
and swamping the system. You know it can't be done. You know it can't. And already
All
that's
right,
been
so now-
fraud.
Wait.
Mail
It's
service
final-
delivered.
No, no, no.
When you
I
have
have a final-
80 million ballots.
Gentlemen, I have a final.
80 million
Dude.
pounds. Yeah.
80
that's
million ballots. Who won
I got
by
where you're going with
81 million ballots?
Hmm. That is
Eight-
interesting.
Maybe he got the script wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see.
Or maybe I just misunderstood it. But That's an
No, I don't
odd
think you
number to
did,
throw
dude.
out.
Yeah, 80 million. 80 million. Hmm.
Hmm.
It would actually, let's see. So I think typically, I think only about, I have to check into this one. I think only about 1/3 of the population is actually registered to vote, but 80
That
million,
would
and it
be
would,
interesting.
yeah. I have to check into that one to see if it's really true. That was a statistic from a long time ago, I heard, but like you'd have to obviously,
I know there's been a
take
lot of push in the past 8 years, with MTV Rock the Vote before that, and then whatever came after that. So there's
yeah,
been a push to get voters, especially millennial voters.
yeah. It's kind of weird they threw this 80 million out there like that. So
Yeah, it's just an odd number to make up to be coincidence.
it is, yeah.
Senate and
question.
swamping the system. You know it can't be done. You know it can't. And already
All
there's
right,
been
so now-
fraud.
Mail
deception.
service delivers
Wait a minute, gentlemen, and the
185
final
million
question
pieces of
is,
mail a
80
day.
in
million
8
ballots.
states, we can keep talking.
It's
In 8
it's a
states,
disgrace.
election workers are prohibited currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and
Yes.
flatten them until election day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it
This is
could
why I
be
thought all
weeks.
that,
Could be months.
just because you don't want to go vote in person, that you can mail in ballot. Dude, every election that I've had, they've had early voting.
Yeah.
So you had no reason not to be able to vote.
Right.
Because it sometimes be open 2 weeks out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Then
They
you
have
got, they don't have an ID to vote, so that would be racist.
they don't. Well, let's see. Yeah. I mean, like I said, as somebody who's gone and voted legally, from I think I might have missed the last election, but 18 and up, I went to all. It's like it's not that strict. You can vote early. You can vote on time. You can send in absentee ballots. It's if you didn't vote, it's your fault. Like,
Oh, my one of my kids turns 18 in September, and she's gonna go vote when I vote, and I vote early. I was like, well, why? You're gonna get a day off school, so why waste it in a voting line?
right.
Until we find out who the new
It's cool
president
though
is.
when
So
when I took my first kid to vote with me, it's a weird feeling. I don't know. It's like, wow. And it's not because I told him. Like, she's like, hey, when are you gonna go vote? I'm like, well, whatever. You can tag along. Just sit in the back, pretend like you don't know me.
first for you, sir. Finally, for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that
from
mean,
a common sense,
does that mean you're going to tell your people to take to the
it means you have a fraudulent election. You're sending out 80 million ballots. They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two, they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
you think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted? And will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes. And here's the deal. They count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until election day. And if there's thousands of ballots, going to take time to do it. And by the way, our
I mean, to
military,
tell me all the
they've
Trump
been
supporters stayed calm and did nothing until the exact day the vote was going to be verified.
Oh, that's an interesting point too. Yeah.
They had all that time to plan and prepare, but it just happened to be that day.
Right, just right, just a coincidence. Yeah.
It's not like the Feds had anything to do with that. Ray Epps.
voted
Dude.
by ballots for since
Good
the end of
weed.
the Civil War.
Happened 10 minutes later.
And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots. That somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a
but-
look at Carolyn Maloney's race
I
in
asked
Manhattan.
you had an opportunity
Look
to
at Carolyn
respond.
Monroe.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome, and I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
Well, that was
I want to see an
fact-
honest
Okay,
ballot count.
gentlemen, you say that's the end of
Chris,
it. This is
I
the end
wanna
of this
see an
debate.
honest ballot count.
We're
And I
gonna
think
leave
he
it
does
there.
too.
To be
he
continued
does.
as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been eye-opening.
What the hell just happened? I fucked something up. We're going to be a little screen like that because I don't really feel like fixing it.
Right.
But anyway, that was
Hmm.
that was interesting to go back and watch.
It's interesting that obviously, every politician lies, so it's interesting, like, we can actually compare, like, oh yeah, this is what he said and look what actually happened. But it's interesting Trump was anticipating the
Everything.
election frauds. Yeah, exactly. Like almost it's like I really would like to see where he found all of these ballots in the waste paper basket, because that would be some damning evidence too. But
Yeah, but now everybody's just going to look like he made it up. Everything that has happened over the past 3 years was predicted during this debate, it looked like.
yeah, exactly. And you got to wonder, it's like, are these guys just, super...
Playing the part.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, how could
Now
they
you see
predict?
why I never trusted Trump.
I do. I mean, that was probably the smart thing to do, is to not trust him, because it looks like the IRS might have been right about some of his taxing, some of his tax, some of the stuff they audited him for. Looks like they were right, and I got to check into that one. But like when he was running last year, he was being audited, and that was his excuse for not releasing the tax forms.
Yep.
It's actually not. There's actually no law that says the president has to. They just do it for the sake of, claiming transparency. But he said he was audited. The IRS was like, we are auditing him, but we're not stopping him from releasing this. Like, he can do this on his own accord.
Yeah.
Looks like they actually... I got to check it. I'll do it right now, actually. Let's see. But yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of reasons not to trust him, but yeah.
I mean, there's reasons to trust him. Obviously, with CSA and trafficking, he was right about that.
Right.
And he was the first one to... Well, yeah, he's probably been the only one to call it out.
At that time, he would have been, yes. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah.
Wonder where Nunya went.
I don't know. She's got gang shit. I gotta send you that, because we talked about Tim Ballard backstage a little bit. He had a hearing to the Senate subcommittee, but I gotta send you the one that I... Yep. I gotta send you this other one where members of, I got it in here somewhere. I'm gonna send it to you when I find it.
All right.
But various members of, I forget. It's that episode that got banned actually. We got it back from Rumble, but it got banned from our YouTube where we were
Well, the
talking about
last
a
one we
dream.
were on.
The one that we got, we had to wait till October to monetize. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one.
So we got hit pretty bad. But what one of the things we showed, among other things, was members of, I forget which branch of government, but they said which branch it was. But they were coming out and saying that they were doing volunteer work, but found that all these Mexicans, kids and adults, were being trafficked for basically for slave labor, but also for sex slavery throughout. So yeah, like they're actually coming out. At the time that they did this hearing, they were actually coming out in the Senate and saying that they witnessed this and coming out as
Oh
whistleblowers too.
shit! I'll
Yeah.
find that. Trust me, I'll find that.
Oh, I've got it, dude. I'll send you when I have it, but it's definitely out there, dude. Yeah, like so it's definitely real.
Oh
Like
fuck! You said it got taken off YouTube.
yeah, when we talked about it, it got taken off of our YouTube page. But
Oh, I can fill
I
it up on Rumble. The real
yeah,
people on Rumble.
I've still got the hard file for it. I'll go ahead and see if I think I still have it. I'll
Yeah,
send
let
it
me.
to you. Yeah, let's see.
I'll take a look at that for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, mate. Probably if I do the second debate, you want me to let you know ahead of time?
Yes, please.
All right, because that now I feel like I've been right. Like history is there for a reason, and people don't. They change it as we go.
Yeah. Like that is
We-
another potential explanation for this Mandela effect stuff too. Like that they're just changing stuff as they go along. But go ahead though.
But yeah, because if you change it and it's the new thing and nobody's paying attention,
Mm.
that's why everything's we thought was new because we hadn't seen it, but we saw it coming because they told us.
Mm.
So it looked normal as it was happening. I don't know. I'm just fucking probably high because I did.
Yeah. It would
Yeah.
appear that way, but I think you're right about a lot of things though.
This white grape is it white
Yeah.
grape or is it something else? White gummies, yo,
White gummies.
something else. I think I've got a head high. It's great, but yeah, man. Thanks for stopping by.
No problem, dude. And it was the Department of Health and Human Services. People who work there were the ones that were coming out and testifying.
Department. Okay, DHS. Yeah.
Yeah, Health and Human. Yep. Yeah, one of them specific. Yeah, there's one that specifically said sex trafficking, and others that came out and said that, among other things. But yeah, I'll go ahead and send you the whole thing when I got it right here.
'cause I
Though.
think I might have done something about it a couple years ago on Rumble, but yeah, anything a refresher because
Yeah.
like I said, it's the third time I'm throwing shit up on YouTube. And I'm trying to skirt around certain things. So,
Yep.
But anyway, appreciate it, brother.
No problem, dude.
And,
It's good hanging out here.
in case y'all, anybody that's out there, I'm not telling y'all how to think. Like I don't tell James how to think. He's got a brain, even though he's a millennial. But I'm just telling y'all.
I'm telling y'all how
think-
to think.
Yep. But definitely follow his channel. Well, fuck, man.
There's 3 of them. One's mine, one's the me and Nunya channel, and then Nunya has her own channel. I'll go and throw all 3 of them in here. Let's see. So I'm gonna grab this.
But you're gonna have to give it to me. I can find them because I only have a mod. Oh, wait. What's going on?
Yeah, you're modded in all the channels. Let's see. Here's.
No, just put it in a private chat so I can put it up.
Okay, cool. Sounds
Actually,
good,
no,
dude.
I'm gonna put it in the description so people can go play back because I don't have live chat replays. Remember?
I got you. All right. Well, I'm slapping
them
them in
I
here.
saw this in the chat. It's like, well, no, because I fucking deleted it, so I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Thank you.
All right, no, Tim. I'll see y'all later. James, check out James. He's on like 3 other channels. But this is the only one where we can't be bullied by, certain people. Even though I can't really be bullied, but James can be because That's the way things work. All right. See y'all later.
All right. Get you later, guys.